and gender-responsive evaluation to leave no one behind. This series are being organized by IUCE, the International Organization for Cooperation in Evaluation, Eval Partners, Global Partners, Global Parliamentarians Forum for Evaluation, the United Nations Evaluation Group, in partnership with UN Women and UNICEF. In this series, we shall be engaging with different parliamentarians on how we can use evaluation to not only ensure we leave no one behind in evaluating the Sustainable Development Goals, but also to ensure that evaluation helps in informing policy. In our first webinar today, we shall be having our keynote presenter, who is Honorable Dr. Susan Musyoka. Susan Musyoka is a member of Parliament in the Kenyan National Assembly and the Vice Chairperson of the African Parliamentarian Network on Development Evaluation, APNOD. She is a member of the Steering Committee of the Global Parliamentarians Forum on Evaluation, and she is also the GPFE representative to the Agenda Plus Management Group. After Susan's presentation, we shall have our discussant today, Mr. Marco Segone. Mr. Marco Segone is the Director of the Independent Evaluation Office of the UN Women, as well as the Chair of the United Nations Evaluation Group. Marco also serves as the Co-Chair of Agenda Plus. And I will be moderating this session for today. My name is Awuor Ponge. I'm the Director of Research, Policy and Evaluation at the African Policy Center. I'm a board member of SAMIA as well as IDEAS. And I represent IDEAS, the International Development Evaluation Association. I'm the representative to the Agenda Plus Management Group. I now call upon the chair of the United Nations Evaluation Group, Mr. Marco Segone, to give us the opening remark. Marco.
Thank you very much, Ponge. Good morning to the colleagues from North and South America. Good afternoon to the colleagues from Europe, the Middle East and Africa. Good evening or even good night to the colleagues from Asia. It's really a big pleasure for me to do the opening of this first webinar of the series of webinars with parliamentarians, because this is something very important. In the past, the evaluation community mainly focused on the supply side of the equation, meaning on strengthening the capacities of evaluators to produce good quality evaluations. But we always overlook the demand side of the equation, meaning the policy makers who should demand for evaluation and use evaluation in national policy making. This is why about 3 years ago we supported the creation of regional parliamentarian forums. And the good news is that today we have regional parliamentarians forum for evaluation in South Asia, in East Asia, in Africa, in Latin America, and in the Middle East. And the culmination of this process happened in November 2015, just a few months ago, at the Parliament of Nepal, where more than 100 parliamentarians, together with ministers and together with the global evaluation community, they met together at the Parliament to engage and to commit to demand, produce and use good quality evaluation for national policy making. So this is very, very good, and I'm really glad that the first webinars of this series is about the importance of evaluating national development strategies or localized SDGs, the Sustainable Development Goals, with a particular focus on the principle of no one left behind, with a particular focus on equity focus and gender responsive evaluations. So welcome to the first webinar, and once again congratulations to the organizers, and I'm really looking forward to hear from Susan Musyoka what she has to tell us as a parliamentarian. So with this, I would like to give the floor to Honorable Susan Musyoka.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here on this very first webinar on the importance of equity-focused gender-responsive evaluation. And it is an important activity. It is important that the issue of inclusiveness should be addressed, and because over the years there has been tremendous progress towards poverty eradication, and also many developments have taken place, but many people, many groups have been left behind, including women, persons with disability, old persons, marginalized communities, and minority groups. Equity for all, so as to achieve peaceful, just, and vibrant societies, it is very important that everybody gets involved, and therefore we have an equity focus and gender evaluation. The role of parliamentarians in ensuring equity-focused gender responsive evaluation is really...
Susan, I'm sorry to cut you, but Dr. Susan, could you make your voice louder? Quite a few participants could not hear you. Thank you so much.
Should I go back to the beginning?
I suggest, Honorable Musyoka, we had skipped the objectives of the webinar. Maybe I could just highlight the objectives of the webinar, then you can pick up from there.
Okay.
Would that be okay with you, Honorable Musyoka?
Okay, I'm going to be a bit louder, and let me start all over again. I'm delighted to be here. And
Honorable Musyoka?
Yes?
Just if I could just highlight the objectives of the webinar, then we can continue. Would that be okay?
Yes, 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 yes.
Okay, thank you.
Ponge, can you highlight the objectives of the webinar?
Yes, I'm saying that in this webinar, we expect to discuss the importance of equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation. We shall be deliberating on the role of parliamentarians in promotion of equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation. And Honorable Musyoka will also be able to take us through the major challenges to equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation, and will highlight the opportunities to strengthen equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation. Honorable Musyoka, you can take from there. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to be here to discuss the importance of equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation. First and foremost, it is very important to have inclusiveness. Over the years, there has been tremendous progress towards poverty eradication, but not all people have benefited, not all groups of people. For example, women, persons with disability, old persons, marginalized communities and minority groups. Therefore, we need to include all these groups in order to achieve the success that we desire. And it is important that to ensure inclusiveness and equity for all, so as to achieve peaceful, just, and environment. Therefore, we cannot really underpin the importance of having equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation. Now, when we come to the role of parliamentarians in ensuring an equity-focused, gender-responsive evaluation, parliamentarians form part of evidence equity-focused gender-responsive evaluation forms part of evidence in legislation, oversight, and policy decision. E.g., in Kenya, we have a caucus on evidence-informed decision-making, and this is helping us to use more of evidence in our discussions. It is the parliamentarians have a role to advocate for a shift from traditional monitoring and evaluation to evaluation, equity-focused, gender-responsive, and monitoring and evaluation of countries' development blueprint. In many countries, I'm sure we have, like in Kenya, we have Vision 2030, and to be able to evaluate, it is important that we use an equity-focused, gender-responsive approach. It is important for parliamentarians to advocate for and facilitate the strengthening of the capacity of key public institutions to provide inclusive monitoring and evaluation strategies. In our caucus in Parliament, we are currently pushing for the independence of the Monitoring and Evaluation Department, which is currently housed under the Ministry of Planning. Parliamentarians should promote equity-focused, gender-responsive, evidence-based engagement with the public. The public is now quite enlightened and engaging with Parliament, and therefore it is important that we promote use of evidence in our discussions. There are, of course, many challenges, and the challenges have to be handled, and we have to think about them as we try to apply the equity-focused, gender-responsive evaluation. For example, the SDGs, some of them are overlapping. National policies and programs to be implemented are likely to be complex due to the scope, aims, and objectives of different players involved, e.g. governments, national NGOs, CBOs, and international non-governmental organizations. Therefore, that will challenge our evaluation. Now, the other thing is we expect to have low levels of support from governments and some resistance in developing culture of carrying out evaluations. Mostly, evaluations are seen as a way of policing or investigating tool for corruption-related issues and not management tool. So that kind of resistance may make it a little bit difficult to carry out effective evaluations. The other challenge is inadequate technical skills and knowledge on monitoring and evaluation methodologies to ensure inclusive evaluations are carried out. Other challenges include low levels of participating inclusivity in decision making to ensure that all those involved have a clear understanding of the objectives of evaluations. This can be quite a challenge because people need to understand the need for use of evaluation and the application thereof. The other challenge is inconsistent political and management support to providing resources for evaluations. For example, irregular and inadequate budgetary and other resource allocation. We need to allocate more funds on the issues of evaluation and research and provision of evidence. The other challenge is gender mainstreaming and affirmative action policies that are poorly coordinated, not well implemented, not well monitored, and not well evaluated. We have a National Gender and Equity Commission and other organizations that are usually involved in such matters, but sometimes there is a disconnect, and you find that issues of gender are not well addressed. As we speak now, in our parliament, we are on the floor of the House, we are discussing the issue of having not more than 2/3 of either gender as parliamentarians. And it is causing quite a debate right now. And we hope that at the end of the day, we will have a law and a formula to ensure that more women are involved in decision making in this country. Now, opportunities to strengthen equity-focused, gender-responsive evaluation. We have many opportunities which we can use. For example, in our many constitutions, there is a clause of public participation with provisions for monitoring and evaluation of policies and programs. Our constitution in Kenya has embedded public participation in most of its decision making, and in monitoring and evaluation, there is no exception. The other opportunity is to have the executive making pronouncements that can provide an opportunity to support M&E, including the presidential public endorsement of M&E. We have performance contracting that goes on in the country, and this needs to be strengthened even more so that people are able to see what is happening and how ministries are able to evaluate the progress that they are having. That also has its own problems, and we need to strengthen M&E more. Therefore, there is an increasing growth in the area of M&E, including the existence of professional societies. In Kenya, we have the Evaluation Society of Kenya, which is working with the academia and professionalizations of M&E. The universities are now, and tertiary institutions are now introducing more courses on M&E, some up to master's level, and this is improving the situation quite a bit. The other opportunity is the fact that there is an increased demand for M&E information to inform decision making. For example, in Parliament, we have a research department, and more parliamentarians are asking for information so that they can make informed decisions during the oversight and legislative work. The public is also becoming quite enlightened, and there is now increasing demand from the electorate and the citizenry for evaluation, for monitoring of programs and projects, And this can be properly done if that demand is met with the correct information that is desired from the researchers and the evaluators. Now, to overcome the challenges and to leverage on the opportunities, there is need to integrate and to increase the participatory country development blueprint strategies and implementation plans so that they are planned and used by the national monitoring and evaluation systems in Kenya, for example, for the Vision 2030. To overcome the challenges and also gain from the opportunities, parliaments, as the oversight bodies and also involved in policy making and decision making, they represent people from all over the country, and they have a key role to play in enabling actors to work together. So caucuses like the Parliamentary Caucus on evidence-based decision making can be quite useful and help in lobbying for more use of the information that is available. The other way to overcome the challenge is to have collaboration between development partners and M&E practitioners so that we can strengthen the uptake of M&E. There is also need for close working relationship with institutions involved in management and development of resorts. And this should be followed by the governments. The issue of gender mainstreaming and other affirmative action groups should form components of M&E to ensure that no one is left behind. For example, our National Gender and Equality Commission, which has been involved, I'm sure more can be done to ensure that all the groups marginalized, disadvantaged, they should not be left behind anymore. More training and sensitization across government on performance tracking and M&E should be emphasized. And also the importance of having the M&E as an independent organ so that they can give objective reports that can be used across the board. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Honorable Dr. Musyoka, for taking us through the role of parliamentarians in ensuring equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluations. You highlighted the opportunities that are there for the parliamentarians to strengthen equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation, as well as the challenges and how to overcome them. I would now like to invite Mr. Marco Segone to give us a technical response to your presentation, especially to build on the point that Honorable Musyoka has highlighted, and also to comment on them and bring, if possible, any burning issues that Honorable Musyoka may have left out. Welcome, Marco. Hello, Marco.
Yes, thank you very much, Ponge. Thank you very much, Honorable Musyoka. As Ponge already mentioned, I think you have done an excellent job in really trying to lay out the main opportunities, challenges, and also ways of overcoming the challenges and leveraging the opportunities. That is probably the most interesting aspect, because we want to be forward-looking in our discussion. I would say that I agree with all the points you made. So perhaps what I can do, I could complement your presentation, giving a little bit the global perspective. As you know, you rightly so, you focus on the national perspective. Perhaps I could just give the global context. And mainly, I would like just to refer to the fact that 2015 has been an historic year. On the one side, we got 192 heads of states, representatives from civil society organization and private sector, that met together at the UN General Assembly in New York to officially endorse the Sustainable Development Goals. On the other side, we saw the global evaluation community, led by Eval Partner and the UN Evaluation Group, declaring 2015 as the first ever International Year of Evaluation. So this declaration created a global movement that was acknowledged by the UN General Assembly and also by the UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon. But the most important is that this global movement was and is truly a bottom-up movement, because the indicator of that is that there have been more than 90 events and processes and discussions all over the world talking about how to bridge the gap between the evaluation community and the policymakers, talking about how to enable an environment that is supportive of the use of evaluation in national policy making. And as I just mentioned also in the beginning, those 90 events culminated at the Global Evaluation Week at the Parliament of Nepal, where different stakeholders, including the Prime Minister of Nepal, the Speaker of the Parliament of Nepal, about 100 parliamentarians, and the global evaluation community, they met together to launch the 2016-2020 Global Evaluation Agenda, that includes very strongly the principle of no one left behind, the principle of social equity and social justice, and the principle of gender equality. So the Sustainable Development Goals are our biggest opportunity to transform our world, mainly for 5 reasons. The first one is that they have been developed through a very participatory process, and therefore the ownership is expected to be high. The second is that they are comprehensive and interconnected, bringing together the so-called 5 Ps. So the SDGs, as you probably know, they have 17 goals and 169 targets, but mainly they are about the 5 Ps. The first P is about people, so they are about human development. The second P is about planet, therefore sustainable development, climate change, etc. The third P is about prosperity, that is referring to the elimination of poverty. The fourth P is about peace, in recognition that development is not possible without peace. And the fifth P is about partnership, in recognition that, as human and sustainable and equitable development is so complex, no individual ministry or agency or donor can do it alone. This can be achieved only through multi-stakeholder partnership. The third big important reason why SDGs are our biggest opportunity to transform our world is that there is a very strong call on leaving no one behind. That's why we have 2 goals, the goal number 5 and the goal number 10. They specifically call for achieving gender equality and for eliminating any sort of inequality. But most importantly, this principle of no one left behind is mainstream along all the 17 SDGs. And the last reasons of the SDGs being a very good opportunity is that the SDGs, they call, and actually the 192 heads of states, they committed to a strong, inclusive, and participatory follow-up and review mechanism that should be based on country-led evaluations. Therefore, the SDGs are our biggest opportunity, but also our biggest challenge. I mean, Honorable Musyoka already explained these opportunities and challenges at country level, but at global level, they are also reflected as a opportunity and challenges. And that's why Eval Gender Plus, the global partnership to strengthen national capacities for equity focus and gender responsive evaluation, was created. Eval Gender Plus is a multi-stakeholder partnership that includes parliamentarians, UN agencies, evaluation associations, governments, civil society organizations, etc., that come together exactly to overcome the challenges and leverage the opportunities that Honorable Musyoka already mentioned in her presentation. So I would like to conclude my my remark just saying that, you know, this is up to each of us to achieve the world that we want through the SDGs, and therefore each of us should be a kind of activist to promote equity focus and gender responsive evaluations, to be able to not to leave anybody behind. The good news is that there are already a lot of resources available when it comes to equity focus and gender responsive evaluations. They are all free of charge and available in internet. And just to mention a few, there is the UNICEF manual on how to design and manage equity focused evaluation that is available in the UNICEF Evaluation Office website. There is the UNEG manual on how to integrate gender equality and human rights in evaluation that is available in the UNEG website. There is the UN Women manual on how to manage gender responsive evaluations that is also available at the UN Women Evaluation Office website. And in the Eval Partner MyMNE website, there are several e-learning available in different languages, including Arabic, Russian, Spanish, that also tackle the issue of equity focus and gender responsive evaluations. So it looks like we have all the conditions in place, both the technical resources available as well as the, let's say, political platforms and multi-stakeholder partnership to be able to really overcome the challenges and leverage the opportunities that Honorable Musyoka mentioned in her speech. So thank you very much for inviting me at this webinar. And now I give the floor back to Ponge to moderate the question and answer session.
Thank you so much, Marco, for the technical input. I would like now to invite the participants to to give in their questions. And already I can see that there are some questions that have been sent, and I would like to forward them first to Dr. Susan Musyoka. A question from Asela. Dr. Susan, would gender budgeting help to advance equitable development? If yes, do you think countries have capacity for gender budgeting, for example, Kenya? Another question from Asela. How would more women in the parliament help to promote equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation and equitable development? Another question comes from Malika Samanarayan Yake, and she's asking Dr. Musyoka, how can we ensure that parliamentarians will become sensitive to equity-focused and gender-responsive evaluation? What is your experience in Kenya? And one question coming to Marco from Lenise Baptiste. What advice would you offer independent M&D practitioners who work with governments and at times staff of individual ministries, when that is politically expedient, trumps the evaluation, when what is politically expedient trumps the evaluation findings. Maybe we could listen to responses from the two questions, then we can field more questions. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your questions from Marcella on more equity budgeting. I think it is very important to have more funding and with a focus on equitable distribution, so that no one also is left behind in the distribution of resources. And when it comes to having more women in parliament, whether it makes a difference, I would like to give the example of Kenya. Before 2013, we had only 9% representation of women in parliament, and now we have 19%. This has made quite a difference as far as issues of affirmative action are concerned. The women, through a lot of getting together and lobbying and pushing for bills that are specific and affect women and children, we have managed to get a gender-based violence bill enacted, sex offences bill that was effected in the last parliament, but we highlighted so much. Marriage Act bill and a matrimonial property bill. So we are happy to see some of those bills going through and being enacted, and they affect the women folk of Kenya positively. The other thing is that we have managed to get an affirmative action social development fund, which is targeted to help marginalized groups, women, girl child, persons with disability, and the elderly, and people who have been otherwise left out in society. We are getting more of those girls who have dropped out of school back to school, and also getting women empowered to carry out businesses in the community. I would say having more women would create a more equitable society and make people more involved and more empowered to carry out businesses and also to speak for themselves. The other question was, what was it? How monitoring and evaluation, how having it empowered or strengthened, how it would help more in Kenya or in any other country. This is an area where the question was, what is the role of national evaluation policy in promoting equity? Yeah, evaluation, and in Kenya, sorry about that. We are targeting to strengthen the monitoring and evaluation department so that we can get objective reports and be able to act on them in an objective manner so that we are able to get the desired results. In the challenges that I talked about, one of the challenges we have is that evaluation is not considered, it is considered more of a tool to policy government. And having an M&E department which is independent, definitely the challenge will be a more independent challenge rather than an attack on government by politicians. And those results that are obtained there, politicians can use them in a more objective manner and be able to effect the results that are desired. Thank you.
Okay. Marco, maybe you could respond to one of the questions that was forwarded to you.
Ponge, can you please read down those questions? Or I can do it. So basically, Marco, you have 2 questions. The first is coming from Lenis, and the question is the following. What advice would you offer independent M&E practitioners who work with the government and at times individual ministers? What is politically expedient trumps the evaluation findings?
Okay, thank you very much, Lenis, for this question. As it's a key one, and it's particularly relevant for equity focus and gender responsive evaluations, because this kind of evaluation, they should not only or simply disaggregate data, but they should really look at the structural causes of inequality, and therefore they should look at power relationships, they should look at social norms, they should look at cultural beliefs, etc. And these are all, politically sensitive issues. So to me, the first thing is that usually when a commissioner evaluation is not happy, usually the first things they do is they try to challenge the methodology. So my first advice would be make sure that the quality of the evaluation is strong. Make sure that the methodology and also the process to carry out the evaluation is transparent and is robust. So that's the first things. The second, it would be to make reference to the national or regional or international standards for evaluations. So if somebody is challenging particular aspects, you should always refer back to the evaluation standards of your country or of your region, or if there are no national standards, at the international one, saying that you are following standards that are recognized by the evaluation community. The third aspect, especially for those interventions, policies or programs that were designed, they were not designed specifically to reduce inequalities, and you may have the commissioner of the evaluation saying, well, this intervention was not designed to reduce gender inequality, for example, so why are you applying a gender responsive approach? So in that particular case, the advice would be to try to focus not much on the accountability side of evaluation, but more on the learning side of the evaluation. So saying that, the equity focus and gender responsive evaluation is a way to not to say that the disparities were not reduced, because maybe that was not the intended outcome of the program you are evaluating, but it's a way to highlight what have been the gap and what has been the unintended, probably, effects of the intervention on disparities, on women, on the most disadvantaged, etc., and how the program could be adjusted and how future similar program could be designed to be equity focused and gender responsive. And the last would be to try also to find out some allies or some champions of equity focused and gender responsive evaluations, either in the government or in the evaluation associations, that could support also and advocate for the use of this kind of approach.
Mm-hmm. Marcus, thank you so much for your answer. We also have another question from Lennis. I think it could be addressed to you and Susan as well. Lennis is writing down that I know that the priority of creating an independent M&E department to provide objective reports on the government's function. Will this department be supported by similar departments in each of the ministries? Make M&E everybody's business or not?
So who do you want to? Do you want?
Start, Marco, with you, and then we'll ask Susan's point of view on that. Marco, can you provide the answer?
Okay. So different countries have different approaches. There are some countries that they have the so-called whole of government approach, meaning that there is a central evaluation unit, usually under the presidency or under the Prime Minister office, or sometimes under the Ministry of Planning or the Ministry of Finance. And that central evaluation unit is responsible either to evaluate policies of different nature or to coordinate existing M&E departments in the line ministries. Other countries, they even go beyond of this, like in the case of Mexico, where they have an independent national councils for evaluation of public policies that report directly to the Congress, to the Parliament. Other countries, they start with a M&E department in line ministries to show the importance and the value of having an M&E department, and then that good practice is going to be scaled up in other line ministries. So the answer is that it really depends on the situation of the different countries. I mean, different countries, they have different approaches, but perhaps the most important things is to have national evaluation policies where the role and responsibilities of the different actors are spelled out, and also the purpose of the evaluation function in the country is clear to everybody. And that's why there has been a lot of focus in the later years on developing national evaluation policies, but then these national evaluation policies should also be equity focused and gender responsive. And once again, the good news is that Eval Partner, in partnership with UN Women, UNICEF, etc., they also came up with a guidance on how to design and implement national evaluation policies that are equity focused and gender responsive. So I would like to invite Lennis and other colleagues interested to visit the Eval Partner website and to look at that book on national evaluation policies.
Mm-hmm. Thank you so much, Marco. Susan, do you have something to add? Dr. Susan.
Yes, I would like to just add that these issues of evaluation are it's a quite new concept and approach for Parliament. And asking about capacity building, we need a lot of capacity building for parliamentarians, and we need also to encourage, like in the caucus that we just started last year, we are encouraging the use of evidence, the use of information, the use of the research department in Parliament, so that people can be more enlightened, and the debates that we have can be not based on personal opinion, but based on facts, putting facts and evidence in the point of discussion, so that the discussions are more vibrant and more factual, and with a lot of strength to back what one is debating about. I would also like to say that our M&E policy is now in cabinet, and once it comes to Parliament, I'm sure we'll with the knowledge that we have right now. And also the caucus and the Parliament is working closely with the M&E department and also with the Evaluation Society of Kenya, so that we can gain more and be able to use what is available for better debates and better information and better implementation of the policies that we are talking about.
Dr. Susan, thank you so much for your feedback. There's also one more question from Mr. Nasseri. In terms of the, can you share your experience how the M&A practices could be established, developed within the ministry? Could you share the experience of Kenya on that?
How the M&E
practices could be established, developed in a ministry?
Okay. Again, using our Kenyan blueprint, the Vision 2030, right now what is existing in Kenya is the performance contracting. Each ministry signs a performance contract, and at the end of the year, an evaluation is done. And this, at the moment, this is what is going on. But with the strengthening of the M&E department, we expect that the performance contracting and the evaluation of actual projects and programs will be done now independently, and then this should be compared with the contracting reports that are being generated, so that then the actual picture can be realized. And we hope that if that does happen, we'll have a better answer and a better documents that we can work with. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Susan, there's also one more question to you from Isha Miranda. You mentioned about the need to have more capacity building for parliamentarians, right? There's a questions like in terms of the methods and approach in capacity building, like which you see the most useful for parliamentarians, and also how often parliamentarians update their knowledge in monitoring and evaluation. What is the experience in Kenya in that regard?
What we've been doing is holding workshops and training programs, and also we have partnered with and helping to capacity build the research employee of the research department in Parliament, and these are the ones who are supplying the information to parliamentarians. And in fact, there's always a researcher in Parliament to help out and to help produce the information for the parliamentarians. So those who are seeking the information do not have to go very far. They go to the research department and are able to get the evidence there.
I see. Dr. Susan, there is also one more question from Lenis. There is a question in terms to what extent do you publish all the strategies in monitoring and evaluation where our participants could find it online? Do you publish them, the proposed strategies on monitoring and evaluation?
We have not started doing that, but that's a very important thing that we should be able to do. And I'm going to note it down so that we can be able to share this information with others.
I see. Okay, thank you so much. Also, there is two questions to Marco. Marco, could you please share with your point of view on the following aspects? we have a participant, Mr. Celestine, who is asking the following question. If no one is to remain behind, how will the illiterate be involved in monitoring and evaluation? And also the other question is about demand. So how do you think deliberate demand for introduction M&A courses in various universities to more levels than they are now be a good idea?
Yeah, thank you very much for these two important additional questions. The first one on how to involve the most marginalized groups in monitoring and evaluation, and there was a specific example of illiterate people. Well, once again, likely, I mean, there is already quite a lot of literature when it comes to using participatory processes, and specifically community-based participatory processes to engage these kind of groups, including the illiterate people groups. So the idea is that obviously you cannot use exactly the same methodologies, but you have to be sensitive to the local context, and therefore you have to use approaches and methods and tools that are appropriate to the local context. So once again, I would like to refer colleagues to the existing literature, especially those referring to community-based participatory processes that give some practical examples on how to involve also illiterate people in monitoring and evaluation. Mm-hmm. The second question was how to strengthen the demand for M&A. Sorry?
How to strengthen demand for introduction M&A courses in various universities.
Yeah, exactly. So that's, I think, that the national evaluation associations have a key role to play in this. Because one role of the national evaluation associations is exactly to strengthen the national capacities for evaluation. Now, the majority of evaluation associations, they focus on short-term trainings, while a more sustainable approach would be exactly to have introductory, or even not introductory, but also more in-depth training and courses at local universities. Once again, some good news. I mean, there are already examples happening, and as Honorable Susan is from Kenya, there is also one example in Kenya where the Kenyatta University, in partnership with UN Women and with the Kenyan Evaluation Association and Eval Gender, they came up with a training that is now delivered by the Kenyatta universities. There are also other similar examples in other countries, and I would say that definitely that should be the way to go, because that's a way to institutionalize capacity development in the countries.
Mm-hmm. Great, Marcus. Thank you so much for this responses. We actually have one more, I think, very important question to you, and we actually now basically almost running out of our time allocated for the webinar. So, if it's possible, we will just I will ask you the question, and after we will need actually to close down the webinar. All the questions, I think the communication, we can, figure out later on how participants could pose the question to the panelists. So the question also comes from Celestine, who asking, like, how are you rolling out the program to national level? Have you left each country to fit in this traditional system, or there is a technical support? How and when do you think it will reach the grassroots people, especially in Africa? I'm interested in the change, like from the global to village level.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks a lot for this question. I think that each development has to be country-led, so the country has to be really in the driving seat. So whatever the global level is doing should be to support what the countries, and then if you go down to subnational and local level, want to do based on their own local needs. That's why, just to make an example, with Eval Gender, we have called for expression of interest to strengthen national capacities on equity focused and gender responsive evaluations. And one of the conditions was that government, the National Evaluation Association, and parliamentarians, they should come together. And now we are going to, I mean, Eval Gender is going to support the countries that submitted expression of interest that are, that are robust. And mainly the idea is to support whatever the countries has identified as the key needs based on the local context. So it has to be led by the countries based on the local context. So with this, I would like to thank all of you for your participation. Thanks a lot for inviting me as a discussant, and I give the floor back to the organizers.
Thank you, Marco.
Okay. Okay, thank you so much, everyone. I would just like to thank so much Dr. Honorable Susan Musyoka for the good presentation, and for Marco for the technical input. For all of you who have been able to ask questions, some of the questions were written down. We will share with the presenter and the discussant, and we shall share with you the proceedings. Now, I just want to thank all of you for taking your time to attend this webinar, and we wish you well and hope that you will continue attending the successive webinars. Thank you so much, and bye-bye to everyone.